Hello and welcome to another episode of Double Barrel Gaming. I'm your host, MrBooMStickXL, and on today's special episode, I'm going to be discussing 2017's Top 10, including my pick for Game of the Year. When 2017 arrived, we all knew that on March 3rd, the Nintendo Switch was launching with the newest Zelda in tow. We also knew that the Xbox One X was on its way, and it was projected to be the world's most powerful console. It's safe to say the gaming community expected that 2017 would bring new games with new experiences for everyone to talk about when the year ended. As I sit here in 2018, I'm truly conflicted with my top 10. After spending a significant amount of time with each of these magnificent titles, I actually felt guilty putting some of these titles in their place on the top 10. There are at least 5 games on this list that in any other year would have taken Game of the Year. I will reveal my choices from the number 10 spot all the way down to my personal Game of the Year, but it wasn't easy. To say that it might have been the hardest list I've ever made would be an understatement. Whether you own a PlayStation 4 Pro, an Xbox One X, or a Nintendo Switch, this video is for you. Heck, maybe you own all 3 consoles like me and enjoy the console-specific exclusives. It doesn't matter because all 3 companies are well represented. Of the top 10 games on this list, I beat 9 of them. The only game I haven't beaten was Super Mario Odyssey, and I am a few hours from that accomplishment. I've enjoyed not only playing these games, but revisiting many of these titles when the Xbox One X was released on November 7th, due to them receiving free 4K updates. I think I've already talked enough and wouldn't want you to wait any longer, so without further ado, here are my top 10 games of 2017. At the number 10 spot is Farpoint for PlayStation VR, developed by Impulse Gear and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. It was released on May 16th, 2017. When Farpoint was originally unveiled at Sony's E3, I was super excited to play this game. The main question was, how well was the aim controller going to work? Not only did it work amazingly well, it made you feel like you were truly a part of the Farpoint universe. The immersion you feel when moving and shooting the aim controller was unlike anything I've played before. It plays like your standard FPS, but trust me, when you're looking around for enemies, you are blown away on how real it feels. I did in some instances get a little motion sickness, but plowed through its beefy campaign. If you're picking up Farpoint VR and do not want to splurge on the $90 package which includes the aim controller, I want all the gamers out there to know that you can in fact play this sitting down while using a standard DualShock controller. If Farpoint VR is any indication on the AAA games that will be coming from Sony in the future, PlayStation VR owners are going to be extremely happy. If you own a PlayStation VR, you must get this game in your collection. You will not be sorry. Coming in at the number 9 spot is Super Mario Odyssey, developed and published by Nintendo of America. It was released on October 27th, 2017. The last Super Mario game to come this close to greatness, in my opinion, was Super Mario 64 or Super Mario Galaxy. Well, Super Mario Odyssey leapfrogs over both of them in every way. Each level was a masterpiece. It was like playing pure artwork. This was the Mario game we've all been waiting for, and Nintendo delivered in a big way. I honestly can't find anything wrong with the entire game. Currently, it has a 97% Metacritic score. Not only is that astonishing, but it is absolutely correct. I wasn't sure how well the mechanics of throwing Mario's new BFF, Cappy, around the level was going to be. Turns out it was one of the highlights of the game. Being able to basically take over enemies and use their powers was impressive and extremely forward-thinking by Nintendo. Super Mario Odyssey was exactly what the storied franchise needed. Nintendo rebooted Mario, and it was done with absolute respect to the character and its millions of fans. One of Nintendo's finest accomplishments in years. I highly recommend this title for everyone. It doesn't matter whether you're 10 or 47 like me. Coming in at number 8 is Destiny 2, developed by Bungie and published by Activision. Destiny 2 was released on September 6th, 2017. This year, Destiny 2 was released and fans were undeniably excited to jump back into the world of exotics, nightfalls, strikes, raids, and grinding like never before. I put in nearly 200 hours before hitting an invisible brick wall that was put there by Bungie. After getting stuck at light level 285, I left never to return. There are so many great things about Destiny 2. The world is glorious to explore. The weapons are as exciting to find as they are to use. The single-player missions, though short, told a wonderful story, something the entire fanbase knew Bungie was capable of doing. Bungie heard the cries of their fanbase about the shallow and incomplete story in Destiny 1. That was addressed with a powerful, well-explained story with arcs as big as some of the greatest sci-fi novels ever written. The worlds were bigger, the bosses were better, and the overall gameplay was as perfect as you would expect from Bungie. Sadly, it was ruined by what I believe to be greed, and now the franchise is in turmoil. The first DLC flopped, and at this point, Bungie has lost about half of its player base. Even with all of its current issues, it still deserves a spot in the top 10 for everything it did get right. I felt that it would have been an injustice not to put Destiny 2 on this list. At the number 7 spot, Evil Within 2, developed by Tango Gameworks and published by Bethesda Softworks. It was released on October 31st, 2017. Well, after not enjoying The Evil Within 1, I personally had my doubts about a Part 2. Turns out, the second time was the charm because The Evil Within 2 was a horror masterpiece in every sense of the word. What immediately grabs you was the look and feel of the game. It played like Resident Evil 4 and had the same action to match. For good measure, they added the creepiness and the effed up visuals that were straight out of Silent Hill, a combination that was well executed. I literally could not stop playing this game, and with its 17 plus chapters, you will get your money's worth out of The Evil Within 2. The leveling system was fantastic and easy to understand. The more creatures you killed, the more experience you gained. You also collected a type of green gel that was used to level up your skill tree. Besides the horrifying creatures, the atmosphere was dire and bleak. A real sense of dread came over you while playing this game. In most instances, I found myself slowly peeking around corners because I was afraid what was going to be there waiting for me. The weapons were well designed and when used with precision, made you look and feel like a total badass. I highly recommend playing this amazing game. Coming in at number 6, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus, developed by Machine Games and published by Bethesda Softworks. It was released on October 27th, 2017. Hot on the heels of Wolfenstein: The New Order and Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, everyone had high expectations for the sequel, and Machine Games didn't disappoint. Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus was as great as the original with a fantastic group of characters who you felt real emotions towards. The game was long, but did not overstay its welcome. The gameplay was fast and action-packed from start to finish. The voice acting in this game was superb. What stole the show for me was the inner monologue with the lead character, William J. Blazkowicz. His personal struggle to make everything right was inspiring and made the player push on through every level in the game. The addition of his backstory was unexpected and well written. The writing for every character was fantastic, especially the lead protagonist, Frau Engel. She was the ultimate villain, and you wanted nothing more than to see her burn. Her sadistic behavior throughout the entire campaign was raw and unforgiving. A true bad guy for the ages. Even though it's the 11th installment in the series, it proved that the Wolfenstein franchise still has long legs, and I expect to be talking about its sequel in a few years. It received a 4K enhanced patch for the Xbox One X, and now looks even more stunning than before. Even after beating this game, Machine Games gave its players plenty to do with an open-world type map that has you revisiting areas to take out the leftover commanders of the horrible Nazi army. I highly recommend this title as it's the best in the series so far. Coming in at number 5, Ghost Recon Wildlands, developed by Ubisoft Paris and published by Ubisoft. The game was released on March 7th, 2017. After numerous delays, Ghost Recon Wildlands launched to critical success, a single-player game that allowed for a 4-player co-op experience through the entire campaign had the ghosts hunting down the biggest and baddest drug dealers in Bolivia. In this open-world romp, players could tackle the entire game as they saw fit. Being able to drive, fly, and use boats gave players the opportunity to traverse the environment any way they chose. There was a wide array of weapons to find and use to your advantage, and being a Ghost Recon game, you were given the ability to use future tech like drones to take out the bad guys. There were tons of side missions that helped you level up everything from guns to gear. You were also able to call in airstrikes and rebel support when needed by leveling up these abilities. There have been numerous DLC packs, but none stands out more than the last one called The Fallen Ghosts. Ubisoft continues to show support for this game and recently released free Predator DLC where you and your team are now faced off against the most fearsome hunter in the galaxy. Yes, that Predator from the movie, the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's free time DLC, but it won't be around forever. Get in there and kill that Predator. There are rumors of a PUBG-type mode coming to Ghost Recon Wildlands for free in the middle of this year, and that is very exciting simply because the map of Bolivia is huge and should make playing a 1 vs 100 mode awesome. Coming in at number 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, developed by Guerrilla Games and published by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Horizon Zero Dawn was released on February 28, 2017. There is so much to say about Sony's biggest game in 2017. For starters, Horizon Zero Dawn is a masterpiece and a must-play for anyone who owns a PlayStation 4. Why this game has not sold more than 10 million copies, to me, is a travesty of justice. When this game was shown at Sony's E3 in 2015, I was blown away, but what is astounding is that the PlayStation 4 exclusive is from the creators of Killzone. Killzone is a franchise that I tried to play but could never really get into. Going from a first-person shooter to an open-world action-adventure RPG for Guerrilla Games is absolutely incredible. I honestly don't think Sony themselves knew that Guerrilla Games could pull off this kind of feat. With the critical success of Horizon Zero Dawn, Guerrilla Games has established their place in Sony as a major pillar of the PlayStation exclusives. I honestly cannot wait to continue the adventures of Aloy in future Horizon Zero Dawn releases. In my opinion, it's currently the best graphics on the PlayStation 4 to date, and though it's slightly better looking on the PS4 Pro, the standard PS4 runs it perfectly. Aloy is a strong female lead that has the potential to carry the weight of the PlayStation brand like Kratos or Nathan Drake. I put nearly 60 plus hours into Horizon Zero Dawn and highly recommend this title. In any other year, this would have been my game of the year. Unfortunately, 2017 was stacked with so many amazing experiences, it was extremely hard to pick a number 1. If you're like me and already beaten the main story of Horizon Zero Dawn, think about purchasing the DLC which launched a few months ago called The Frozen Wilds. It is absolutely fantastic and well worth the $20 they're asking. Coming in at number 3, Zelda Breath of the Wild, developed by Nintendo and published by Nintendo of America. Zelda Breath of the Wild released on March 2nd, 2017. When Zelda was shown off at E3 2015 at Nintendo's Treehouse event, gamers from all walks of life stopped and looked on with complete awe. There wasn't much gameplay, only someone riding a horse through the countryside of Hyrule in an open-world setting. We didn't know much about where Nintendo was going to take this storied franchise. Some people scoffed at the cartoon graphics. I was intrigued but slightly hesitant. Though Wind Waker was an incredible entry into the already storied Zelda series, could another cel-shaded Zelda be as good? On March 3rd, Nintendo launched the Switch along with only a few games. Zelda Breath of the Wild was one of them, and wow, they knocked it out of the park. After only a few hours of gameplay, I knew Nintendo had crafted one of the finest Zelda games to come out since Ocarina of Time on the N64. I cannot stress this enough. This is as close to a perfect game as you can get. There is literally nothing you can't do in this game. Everything from exploring, to crafting, to catching horses and cooking food was simply a delight to do. None of the listed tasks ever felt overcomplicated. I never felt like I was forced to do anything but run around Hyrule and have fun doing it. There was no specific order for beating the game. Play how you wanted was the huge draw, and being able to traverse the large open world of Hyrule with Link's newest array of tools, including his glider, was exhilarating. Climbing the tallest mountain you could find, just to jump off and glide around to explore, was as fun as it sounds. It's seriously one of the greatest Zelda games ever created, but the best game I've ever played on a Nintendo console. What's incredible is even after nearly 100 plus hours in this monster of a game, I still never found all of the shrines that littered the countryside. Looking for these shrines is another aspect of the game that isn't talked about enough. Like in Zelda games of old, each shrine was a puzzle for you to solve. Some were combat focused, and others needed the use of actual physics to finish them. If you were on the fence about buying a Nintendo Switch and needed a good reason, Zelda Breath of the Wild is that reason. Coming in at number 2 is Assassin's Creed Origins, developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. Assassin's Creed Origins was released on October 27th, 2017. The Assassin's Creed franchise has been around since the Xbox 360 and PS3 days. Since its original release on November 13th, 2007, there have been yearly released games in the franchise. That is, up until last year when Ubisoft decided that the developers needed more time to fix a damaged brand after the troubles that followed with the release of Assassin's Creed Unity. In the fall of 2015, Ubisoft released Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but because the previous release left a sour taste in players' mouths, sales were slow to say the least. At the time, Assassin's Creed Syndicate was one of my favorite entries into the franchise, with the brother and sister addition to the gameplay. Though as good as AC Syndicate was, we're here to talk about the best game in the entire franchise, and that would be Assassin's Creed Origins. Taking the year off gave Ubisoft Montreal the extra time that proved to be the shot in the arm the franchise needed. Assassin's Creed Origins was incredible from start to finish, and I invested well over 70 hours into this masterpiece of a game. The Egyptian backdrop was gorgeous to explore, and I found myself taking picture after picture of the landscape to post them for the world to see. With the world that Ubisoft Montreal crafted, the game never felt too overwhelming and out of reach. The fast travel points certainly helped with moving around this gigantic map very quickly. Like in past Assassin's Creed titles, there were some parts of the game that told the story of another person that was going into the Animus to learn the secrets of their past. Her name is Lila Hassan, and she is a current employee of the Abstergo Corporation who wanted nothing more than to be involved with the Animus project. There were only a few instances where this happened and didn't distract too much from the actual game. Overall, the story of revenge was told extremely well throughout the entire game. The characters of Bayek and his wife Aya are great additions to the AC franchise. Being that this was a story of how the Assassin's Creed Order was formed, I can see Ubisoft bringing back these characters for another game in the future. Now, for what everyone was hopefully waiting for, my pick of Game of the Year 2017. Drumroll, please. Coming in at the number 1 spot and my Game of the Year 2017, Resident Evil 7. Developed by Capcom and published by Capcom. Resident Evil 7 was released on January 24th, 2017. When Capcom announced Resident Evil 7, no one knew where they were going to take this series. After the release of Resident Evil 6 in 2012, many people within the industry, including myself, thought the story franchise had gone the way of the dodo bird. Capcom tried to appeal to every gamer by making Resident Evil 6 a Gears of War hybrid with familiar Resident Evil characters and moved away from what made Resident Evil great, and that was the survival horror gameplay we all know and love. In doing this, they nearly killed the franchise. As of November 2017, Capcom sold over 7 million copies of Resident Evil 6, and though it was considered a financial success for Capcom, it was widely overlooked by many gamers. It was the only Resident Evil game that I personally never beat. Fast forward to January 24th, 2017, Capcom released the next chapter into the Resident Evil series. There were many changes made to RE7, none more unthinkable than switching it from a third-person view to a first-person perspective. Even after playing the demo that Capcom released first on the PlayStation 4 on June 13, 2016, I was very hesitant to accept such a drastic change into what I loved about the Resident Evil games. Another change that had me almost walking away from the game before I even started it was the main character was new and had nothing to do with the STARS team from prior Resident Evil games. Even the locations were extremely different. This time, as the main character, Ethan Winters, you found yourself looking for your missing wife, Mia, in a derelict plantation found in the swamps of Louisiana. Not where you would normally find an Umbrella headquarters, and speaking of Umbrella, they had nothing to do with RE7 whatsoever, another change that had me scratching my head. Even the main protagonists were remarkably different. Jack and his misfit family of freaks were the ones chasing you throughout this new nightmare. But as I played, the game became more and more familiar, and this excited me. Anyone that personally knows me can attest that I am the biggest Resident Evil fan this side of Texas. I own every Resident Evil game on every system. In fact, not only do I have the US versions in my huge collection, I own every Japanese import as well. That is why I was devastated when Resident Evil 6 came out in 2012. I was so disappointed. That, thankfully, is not the case with Resident Evil 7. It is one of the finest in the series, but more than that, one of the best horror games to grace a home console in years. One of the added bonuses for buying this on PlayStation 4 was being able to use your PlayStation VR unit to play the game in its entirety. This was the first VR game to be fully playable from start to finish and was absolutely terrifying. I literally had to stop playing because it was too much. Anyone who wants to feel pure terror, I say try the kitchen demo for Resident Evil 7. It's not long, but it doesn't have to be, and you will shit your pants. All of the listed reasons are why Resident Evil 7 is my personal game of the year for 2017. A title that I give with no reserves. A true return to the survival horror we all know and love about the series. The addition of VR should be experienced by everyone who isn't faint of heart. Now, as special as this video was for me personally and professionally, this community spotlight holds a special place in my heart. I'm going to be talking about my brother, Neo Mental, also known as Mr. Shenanigans. For starters, he's not just my brother, but my best friend. He was the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man at his. We are inseparable, but what most people don't know is that he's my adopted brother. More than that, I'm white as snow and he's African American. Goes to show everyone in the world that color means absolutely nothing. I had to hold back tears several times doing this video because it's my complete honor to tell the entire community about one of the finest human beings that I know. But enough with the sappy stuff. Time to let everyone learn why he's as hardcore a gamer as anyone I know. Growing up, our pop used to call him the Professor because he was the brain of the family when it came to gaming and using his favorite computer of all time, the Commodore 64. We have so many incredible gaming moments, but I'm going to be talking about two of them. The first was from 1996 when he sold everything except the kitchen sink to be able to go to Funkoland to trade it all in to get the PlayStation 1 with the recently released Resident Evil. After finally getting the PS1 home with Resident Evil, we played all night. In fact, when the Cerebus jumped through the window in the hallway, we literally fell out of our chairs. Let's not talk about giant spiders in the basement. My brother hates spiders, so yeah, that didn't go over too well. Next up, and he's gonna hate me for this, we used to import games from a little shop in Astoria, Queens. On that infamous day in question, we went to see our friend Grandfather, who ran the import shop. He had just gotten in a few new imports for the Panasonic 3DO. I bought one that was a shooter and was pretty good. My brother was talked into buying a game called Iron Angel of the Apocalypse. Back then, importing games was pricey. It cost him $95, and in 1994, that was super expensive. Grandfather told him it was a good game, and to this day he still blames me for egging him on to buy it, though I don't remember doing that. He calls it convenient memory loss, and he might be right. When we tried to return Iron Angel of the Apocalypse, Grandfather refused because it was opened, and bought it back from my brother for half of what he spent. My brother was pissed. Turns out, it was the worst game my brother have ever played. A few Christmases ago, I found one in mint condition and presented it to him in the nicest box I could find. I only did what brothers do to one another. So for that, I got a giant middle finger and a big punch to my arm, and I believe it was well deserved. Some of his fondest memories growing up is when we used to take the number 28 bus to Fordham Road in the Bronx, when we were kids, to import games for the Super NES and the TurboGrafx-16. His favorite import game of all time, that was good of course, was Konami's Dracula X. His all-time favorite game, which I found brand new and gave it to him this Christmas, is Impossible Mission for the Commodore 64. Like me, my brother owns every console. His system of choice is the Xbox One, where he has played thousands of hours of Destiny, though because of Bungie's recent actions towards its fan base, he has officially walked away from the game permanently. Some of his favorite games are Destiny 1, The Division, Marvel vs. Capcom, Final Fantasy Tactics, Chrono Trigger, Dracula X, and Military Madness. Please consider hitting him up on Twitter and giving him a follow at NeoMental. I will provide the links in the show notes below. He's a community good guy and one of the smartest people I know. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone that stuck around for this very lengthy video. This was a passion project for me and something I wanted to do ever since I launched my channel a few months ago. If you liked today's video and its content, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. All the subs and likes help the channel grow tremendously. Thanks again. Have an awesome day.